Hey there. Give me just a second. Gonna make sure this thing actually kicks off. I'm streaming from an iPad with a couple external cameras and external feeds, and hey, there we are.
Hey there.
Okay, everything seems to be working just fine. So, our story starts many moons ago when I had the bright idea to do something called a, a 2-year tune-up to my gaming PC. This was not a good idea. This is something that no one should ever do, at least in the context of how I did it. My idea was to do some sort of massive overhaul, software upgrades, hardware changes. It was all going to be kind of just cosmetic and, some slight functional things like a BIOS update and changing out some of the lighting things. And it turned in before it got away from me. It turned into a GPU swap, switching from water or AIO to air cooled, and a BIOS update. A few other. There were some other. Oh, adding an internal capture card because that's brilliant. And when you make that many changes all at once, I think I even changed out a SSD. I think I upgraded a storage SSD from a 1 terabyte to a 2 terabyte. So I cloned it and put in a new one. There were so many variables that I inserted into my computer that when things started to go wrong, I had no idea which one of the many things I had done had caused the problem. Okay, that's getting distracting. You don't need to be here. But thank you. So, I went on this crazy blue screen of death, like month-long, kind of trying to reverse course troubleshoot thing. And in the end of it, I honestly, looking back, I cannot remember what I did to repair everything. But I felt like I had. And the thing that I thought was the problem was my M.2 SSD. I cloned this, replaced it, and my problems appeared to go away. I still had a blue screen or black screen of death periodically, but it was only like while doing gaming with something like Gray Zone Warfare, which is a really unoptimized, relatively new game in the first person shooter space. So, I didn't really think too much. It didn't happen when I was editing video, stuff like that. And then I got Battlefield 6. And I didn't do much gaming in the interim, and I don't know why. But had I been doing gaming, I think I would have had more crashes. And then I got Battlefield 6 and couldn't play more than 5 minutes. And then it seemed to get progressively worse. So I started troubleshooting. And ended up with the most bizarre confluence of issues. One of which being, you can't tell. I was like, all right, well, maybe I should just swap out my SSD again. Maybe I damaged it or something. Or it got damaged. I got to eliminate that variable. So my buddy recommended the Samsung 990 Pro. Now I have a 990 Evo. You can't tell that's what it is, but that is what it is. I have a heat sink on it. Is my storage drive and my primary drive. And ChatGPT started telling me, because I kept having crashes, that, oh, well, there's been an issue where, with specifically X570 motherboards, that it can't differentiate between two Samsung drives. That can't be a thing, right? So it keeps trying to boot up and it won't boot to Windows because it keeps confusing this one for the boot drive. No, that can't be right. And I go through another mess of troubleshooting, and it starts to get worse, where it won't recognize the boot drive. And it does sometimes, but not every time. And I then do the trick with the boot USB. Where did you go? You're here somewhere. Where I had a USB with Windows on it, and then I would boot to that. and you get into the recovery space. And if you've never messed around in the recovery space, there you are. If you've never messed around in the recovery space in Windows, it's an interesting purgatory to be in. So we're going to go there today. I've managed to, let's take a look. Well, let's go here. There we go. So, hi there. Down here too. Hello. I've managed to get this computer into this iPad, and we're going to poke around and try and troubleshoot some things. I think I know what the problem is. And this is why you really should pay attention to your BIOS. We're going to try this now. Let's see if this works. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Here we go. What's going on here? Your iPad screen will appear here. Yeah, that's kind of the goal here, buddy. Activate screen capture. No, what? This is weird. Hold on. 2, 1. Oh, that's not what we want. Stop screen capture. Hit record a stream and switch to the app you want to include. Your secondary camera, if configured, will float over the app. Haha. Okay. I don't think this is what we were trying to do, but is this actually showing up as intended? Let's find out. So, in the recovery space, you get into this sort of purgatory command prompt. Yeah, that's not what we wanted. That isn't where. Let's find out. So, in the recovery space, you get into this sort of purgatory command prompt. Yeah, that's not what we wanted. Okay. That isn't where. Hit record a stream. Your secondary camera, if configured, will float over the app. In the recovery space, you get into this sort of purgatory command prompt. Yeah, that's not what we wanted. Okay. All right, it's not going to work. Hit record a stream. Your secondary camera, if configured, will float over the app. Yeah, that's definitely not going to work. So let's. All right, it's not going to work. Let's ignore that for now. Tell me my stream isn't stuck on that. No. Okay, we're back. Okay. Oh. It's a problem with this Camo Studio app is really interesting. It can do a lot of things, but it's heavily dependent on the capabilities of your iPad. And I guess maybe the M1 chip just doesn't cut it. I don't know. Go live. Yeah, this is the one we're on. Okay. So, all right, well, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. So some of the things I want to test out tonight include trying to boot from a SATA SSD. But that means I need to put an OS on a SATA SSD. Luckily, I have one here. That I could do that with. Just have to clone one of my many copies of Windows onto it. Because the issue to backtrack to where I was before that whole side quest of trying to screen share. The issue that I appear to be having is that there's some kind of undervolting going on. In your PC, you've got it seems to be three main power rails, I think it's called. A 12 volt, 5 volt, and 3.3 volt. And in your computer, in your BIOS, you can see the status of all three of those rails. And my 3.3 volt rail was showing 2.9. And on top of that, it was red. So let's switch to here. Oh, what are you doing? Why does my phone just show the photo? I don't need that. What is this? Go away. Thank you. Wow. I just need to show this. So down at the bottom, you got these three voltages here. And it was showing 2.9 something, and it turned red. And red generally is bad in computer diagnostics. Now, you can tell the other two rails were a little low as well, 11.8, 4.7. Now, that can be related to a number of different things, one of which could be your power supply. You have a bad power supply. I do have a Be Quiet Platinum power supply that I got 3 years ago. The odds of it going bad are slim to none. Especially since I don't overclock, I don't do anything crazy. I haven't had any sort of, I haven't done anything crazy. I learned how to use one of these and tested all the rails. Power supply's fine. The next thing after that is the motherboard. All the little things around your motherboard, what do you call it? VRMs, voltage regulation modules, I believe they're called. They're going to be the things located, well, we can't see them here in this camera angle, but they're all around your CPU over here. They could be having an issue and doling out bad voltage. Could this be related to my original tune-up attempt where I put in a new light-up GPU support? I went from a 3070 Ti to a 3080. Maybe I did something during that time that caused this. Who knows? But right now, all we know is that it will not boot to OS from an M.2. So let's take a look at what it looks like. I've tested this one in my test bench over here. So let's go ahead and put it in this machine. I'm not going to advertise that naughtiness. All right, this is like the worst angle I could have set up for myself. Screw it. I'm just going to put it in the secondary. Oh, great. Do I even have screws out here? There we go. Whoa. There you go. So this is going to be let's go external video source, select device, capture card. I'm genuinely impressed that this actually works. Watch this. Come on, how cool is that? I swear, if this boots to OS, I'm gonna be so mad. I've done all this talking for 14 minutes about how it won't boot to OS. Ah, here we go. Okay. So we are here. Look at that. We are here in the BIOS. And as we can see right here, it sees the Samsung M.2. It does not classify it as a boot drive. Now we know it is. I've booted from it. I've loaded Windows on it like 5 times. I've tested it in my test bench over here. So it's not seeing it, right? Let me get me out of the way. All right, let's go to, what's advanced mode is F7. And there we are. Our voltages, as we can see right down here, are low, 2.8. Oh, we're dropping. We're dropping voltages. Now, when I boot the BIOS with no M.2 in it, it actually gets better voltage on the 3.3 rail. So it stands to reason that even just having that drive in there is sucking voltage away. It's getting worse with every time we turn this on. It's got to be the motherboard. And that's just not something I'm equipped to repair. I know this. I've already ordered a new one, but I still wanted to poke around and test this out. Or maybe just kind of share some of these diagnostic steps that I went through before I even noticed this. Like this, I've been going through diagnostic steps for literal days, like 5 hours a day of just kind of troubleshooting and reloading Windows over and over again. Here we are. Okay, so let's go ahead and kill it. And what I'm going to do is I've got, this is my Windows boot media. And we're going to go again. But this time we're going to go into the recovery environment. And I want to show you what it looks like how it's completely, what ChatGPT keeps referring to it as it's not enumerating the NVMe data. It's the best guess now is the voltage is the low voltage is not allowing it to get the correct identification or information off the NVMe controller from the SSD. So here we go again. There she is. Hello. Didn't realize it was pulling audio from the wrong location. That wasn't cool. A little circle there. That's interesting. So the initial thought was that for some reason my boot files or BCD files were being corrupted and not in the right folder. Here we go. Okay. So I want to go next. Yep. Repair my PC, because we're definitely not installing Windows for a 10th time. Yep. 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 Here we go. All right. So what do we do here? Some interesting steps. Excuse me. Out of my way. Please don't get caught in any fan blades, guys. I'm busy working. Oh. Okay. So we're going to start with disk part. There we go. List disk. So So I look at that. It doesn't even see the NVMe. Remember last time in BIOS, it could at least see that there was one there. Now it doesn't acknowledge its existence. It's only seeing that 239 gigabyte is the boot media that we're currently playing around with, that I plugged in. List volume. That's it. Let's see, is it rescan? It's hard to remember all these. Disk. Just rescan. Okay. List. Disk. Nope. It only sees the one. What is up with that? Okay. We can't even do anything from here. Now it's just not even acknowledging the existence of the NVMe. So we're going to exit this. Turn it off. This is literally a sophisticated way in which I was typing into my thing here. And I think the bottom line is do not do massive overhauls. Always do individual single changes to your PC. But this is the world I'm stuck in right now. Of course, I've done the whole thing where you pull the battery and you reset the CMOS. There was a whole deep dive I went into for a little bit where I was thinking that one of the issues was that there is a sort of non-volatile memory in your BIOS, on your motherboard, called NVRAM. And it seemed like maybe that wasn't clearing. It was remembering bad identification information between two SSDs. It kept misidentifying them because it was remembering this one as being a storage one or this one being the OS and blah, blah, blah. So I was going through the whole process of like figuring out, all right, is there some kind of hard reset you can do with your BIOS where you completely wipe this non-volatile memory that it maybe saves ID numbers of boot drives. That's when I finally noticed the red voltage thing and realized, okay, that's probably our problem. And then I brought both boot drives out here, put them in my test bench, and they booted up just fine. It's not the damn drives. Come here. There you go. Nice and gentle. Whew. The hard part is getting to that stupid release clip for the GPU. Use plastic, always. Oops. I just now realized that I have the GPU screwed in. It's a protective measure for when I carried it into the garage and didn't want it to wiggle. All right, where's my little, there we go. This is what I think it was. Like they should never put anything valuable or important anywhere near the GPU release clip, because I know it's because I have this massive air cooler here that's making it hard to reach, but I can't be the only person who has to like stick something down there to push on the release tab. And if you slip off and you're dumb enough to do it with a screwdriver, never do that. You're going to slip off of the release clip and smack the motherboard. And if there's some important diode or resistor or something there, like, that can be a problem. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to, if I can, stop using this 3080 during the testing phase because it's big and annoying to get around and hard to play with. What we're going to use is a 3060 Super. No, 1660 Super. Because this sucker, look at that. I can get around that easily. I can move around. And I only need one of these power cords. All right, so let's put both of our drives back in. So we got this is our storage drive. Boop. Our primary boot drive. Is anybody watching? Is anybody there? Say hi. Say hello in the chat. Part of the reason I'm like live streaming this is because I wanted to document some of the troubleshooting. And I can't like edit anything right now. This is the computer I would edit it on. So I figured at least I can capture it and maybe roll it into some footage later as part of a larger kind of analysis video about this stupid thing I did. And my buddy Deacon warned me. He's like, change one thing at a time. I'm like, no, you can do a massive overhaul on your computer. Change all these things at once. I've screwed something up. Okay. This is why you pay $70 damn for a screwdriver. Because dag nabbit, it gets the job done. For instance, the magnets are strong enough to hold on to a tiny little screw. Come here. Look at that. I'll pay a little extra up front to know that it's always going to hold that screw steady for me. And it's got the cool and Super Nintendo color scheme going. All right, where's our 1660? What do we do with it? It's down here. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and get a little juice. I've never actually put this 1660 in my main rig before. Yeah, everybody good? Why are you behaving like you're not good? Why are you behaving like you're having problems going in the hole? There you go. Snip, snap. All right, so we are going to try and boot it up again with just those two. Where's our HDMI? Get it up on screen here. Any other issues? Power on. Let's rock and roll. If you're just tuning in, I am troubleshooting my main gaming editing rig because I made this stupid decision to change a bunch of things at once and no idea what's wrong. All right, so interesting. It doesn't see the Pro, which is in the first M M.2 slot, but it does see the secondary. So the first M.2 slot is over here, the primary, and then the secondary is that golden one right there. It only sees the secondary. That's a little weird. All right, let's take a look at advanced. All right, we're still low on the 3.3 volt rail. And here, let me show you why I firmly believe that there is, no matter how much you clear the CMOS or anything like that, it holds on to data. The BIOS, I have flashed the BIOS 3 times. I have reverted to old BIOS. This current one is where does it say what the current one is? I know it says somewhere where the current BIOS is. BIOS utility. BIOS version 4805. This is old as hell. This current BIOS is like 5033 or something. I've gone all over the place. And regardless of how many times I have taken the CMOS battery out and left it out for an hour or two and completely refreshed things, let's advanced. Check this out. See where it says primary and storage? I renamed that 4 BIOS versions ago. That was like 2 days ago, but I've since cleared the CMOS, flashed BIOS numerous times, but the fact that I renamed what the M.21 slot is to primary and storage, because it usually it just said like M.2._1. It just repeated what this said, right? And you can click on any of these and rename them, enter a new name, and it does not forget that. So that does mean that somewhere in the BIOS there is non-volatile memory that this gets permanently written to. So whether or not that's related to the current issue I have, it is annoying to find out that there is stuff in the BIOS that you can't clear easily. Apparently there's some way. This guy has a tool he built that's on GitHub you can download. Not messing with that. But yeah, so where we are right now, boot configuration. Let's get out of the way down here. Fast boot enabled, fine, leave it on. As you can see, there's nothing here. There's just a non-Windows storage drive right here. So we're going to go back in with our boot media and see what we can see this time. And there was a while there where like once every 3 boot ups, it would see the drive and boot to Windows. It's, like I said, it's getting progressively worse. This is a degenerative process, whatever this is. So we noticed last time it only saw one drive and it wasn't the primary. This time I'm actually going to interrupt it because I want to see what it sees before we go into the recovery environment. Here we go. Look at that. Now it sees both drives. Wi-Fi Samsung Type-C. So, okay, so it sees the Windows Media USB. But now it sees all three. You can see that. It sees all three. Identifies this as UEFI. See? Something's up here. Something is up. Now, what's the voltage read now? All right, 2.8. Yesterday it was 2.9, so it's just dropping. But these other two are low as well. Like, I don't know. All right, so let's go back to the main screen. And we are going to boot from this. Because it's the only thing we can boot from. If anyone's curious, this is the Camo Studio app for iPad that I'm streaming on. And I'm able to plug in through a USB-C hub all the different things. I've got a Sony ZV-1 camera is my top down. I've got, that's 2 capture cards going in. Pretty impressed with how well this is actually working. Okay. Should just try Albanian. Okay, so we know it sees all 3 drives. That's good. That means we can kind of try to explore them a little bit. So we go into disk part, which is disk partitions. And we want to list disks. Oh, look at that. It only sees 2 now. It sees the Evo and the thumb drive. Now it's stopped seeing the 1 terabyte SSD that we know is there. Yes, and I've labeled it video because it's where I store all my video files. So this is the problem. You can't even repair a disk it can't see, but it could see a minute ago when it was in BIOS. Oh, this is so annoying. So some of the things that you would normally type in here, if you were in this recovery environment, would be things like you could do, it's called boot rec. There's a couple different boot rec commands you can use. Scan OS. This will scan for operating systems like Windows. Of course, we don't see one because there's no Windows installed that it can see. There's boot rec / I think fix boot is one of them. This won't work. Access is denied. Boot rec. What was the other one? I think it's BCD repair. Fix boot. Now, here are the other ones. Here we go. Rebuild. I'm sorry. I did BCD repair. What it was is rebuild BCD was the one I should have done. Scan OS, fix boot, and fix MBR. You'll commonly see these as sort of like the last resort. Your boot files are screwed up. Type commands when you come into this environment. I'm well beyond saving. The best, it looks like right now our main issue is this cannot reliably see M.2 drives. But it can. I do have a SATA hard drive in here, and it has been able to reliably see that. So, we're going to try that. not going to be fun to watch because I'm going to have to clone an OS to this, which means actually I need this back. There we go. Woohoo. If you're just joining, feel free to say hi in the comments. Let me know you're there. If you have any questions about what the hell is going on here. Look at that. I can actually reach in there and get that out. So much easier than a large, stupid GPU. Okay. Way too many GPUs. All right, so we are going to copy this OS here. But we do need to remove these. I do not want them interfering with our test controls. Hi, can you come out, please? Real gentle-like. One down. I just realized the CMOS battery is 3 volts. Is the 3-volt CMOS battery found on common gaming PC motherboards at all related to the 3.3 volt rail readout that I see in my computer's BIOS?
They're actually... So yeah, even though they both mention a 3-volt range, they're not really connected in terms of what they do. The little 3V CMOS battery on your motherboard is just there to keep things like your BIOS settings and the real-time clock going when your PC's off. The 3.3 rail you're seeing in the BIOS is part of the main power supply that runs all sorts of components when the computer is on. So they're doing different jobs and one isn't directly related to the other.
I don't trust her anyway. She led me down a bad path already. But just wanted to make sure there wasn't a relationship there between the two. All right, so what are we doing next? Well, next thing we need to do, it's interesting. I've never done this streaming from the iPad like this before, so it'll be interesting. We need our SATA drive. And I used to have dreams of a camera I could have that like pointed down on my test rig. Actually, let's try this. You come back here. What are you up to? How about you get out of the way? There you go. Lots of gadgets. There we go. Okay, SATA to SATA. If I can make one recommendation to everybody, something, if you have a Ryzen and or honestly Intel, doesn't matter, get on eBay, find the cheapest integrated graphics CPU that works with your system and just keep it on hand. When my new motherboard gets here, and I'm going to be testing that out, pulling it out of this rig, I'm not going to be bothering to pop a GPU in and out every 5 minutes while I'm doing testing. I'm just going to put in this integrated CPU and run it from that. I'm not going to detach my cooler and stuff right now. But when it gets to that point, that's what I will be doing. All right, so we've got that. We got that. Let's do our primary. Is that the right one? Yeah. You go there. I should have, like, my plan was with that integrated one was to keep it in my test rig over here. So I wouldn't have to be popping. If I was testing a GPU, for instance, and it wasn't working well or something, I could just be using the graphics off the main board. But I'm not testing GPUs on the regular. I'm not a GPU tester. Bryce Osborne, did you get that GPU bracket off Amazon, and what card are you using? GPU bracket. Oh, sorry. So this iPad that I'm streaming from, the app Camo Studio that I use, has the worst chat interface ever. It's literally the smallest text. So I have to, basically I keep a laptop over here that I'm constantly checking. Anyway, to answer your question, this bracket, yes, I did get it off Amazon. I don't remember I'm gonna hook you up. If anyone else is watching, I apologize. We're gonna wait just a second because I can pull that up real easy. It's part of my big overhaul back in June. Filter 2025, apply. Where I bought that, an internal capture card, new thermal paste that didn't perform the way I thought it was going to perform. Even everything I read about it said it was going to perform great. Ended up switching to this Peerless Assassin air cooler because it had a digital readout, and guess who got their dumb butts banned from the US? Deep Cool. For selling stuff to Russia. I know the link. I'm just asking about quality. Oh! I'm sorry, dude. Again, these chats are so hard to read. It's so freaking tiny. Quality. Quality for a GPU bracket of this kind, I think, is decent. It's okay. It's passable. It's hard to create one of these things that doesn't have some flaws because of the way it's mounted, right? Because it's mounted back here, it's going to have this flex sway. Almost any brand is going to be that way. It's going to have some flex. Like the previous one I used, I know it's around here somewhere. Here it is. This one was a non-light up one. And it still had the same, it's because it's only anchored in the back. So it's going to flex this direction. That being said, the reason you'll notice that one didn't have a foot on it, because the way the Zotac GPUs are designed, there's no flat surface on the bottom of these for it to rest on, especially, well, at least on the 3070 Ti. Then I got the 3080, which has a flatter surface here, and that's what that's resting up against, but it's still on an angle. That's the smallest little patch. And it constantly, because it can flex this way, pops out. Now, if your GPU doesn't have these absurd, like, spaceship angles all over it, and actually has a flat spot for you to put this, then you're fine. Yeah, it shouldn't be an issue. The plug is, once it's actually in, is discrete. The issue with my case, and I can't speak to whether or not this is going to be an issue for anybody else. I had to lower it all the way down to here, and it didn't actually fit. So I don't know if you can see that. I had to take a Dremel and cut out a notch so that it could fit at the bottom two rungs right here, these bottom two screws. Otherwise, it was too close to the GPU. So I was able to actually go down a little further because of that notch that I put in it. Which honestly gave it some stability in terms of flex. Kind of integrated it into the rigidity of the case right there. But anyway, thank you for your question. So where were we? We were cloning an OS to a SATA SSD so as to, okay, you can go away for the moment. Thank you. And we'll use the 1660 Super since I don't have the integrated in there. Our prevailing theory at the moment is that our ASUS TUF Gaming X570 motherboard has some kind of voltage irregularity that is preventing it, thank you, from being able to identify NVMEs. Smaller CPU covering up that RGB on the RAM. Oh, it is stupid. It is so stupid. I am not happy about this. I want the Deep Cool Digi one, which is, it's like, I think it's 2 towers and a single fan maybe, or maybe 2 fans and 1 thicker tower in the middle, because this is just magnetically held on. I think it's a thick tower in the middle with a digital readout and then 2 fans. That's the Deep Cool. Yeah, this sucker covering up that RAM, like, and also, I don't know if you can tell, I actually had to offset it. I had to raise the fan on the cooler higher. So there's maybe like a centimeter worth of fins down here that the fan isn't directly pointed at, that it's not aligned up properly. This is not supposed to be this high. It's stupid. Stupid. Look at that. Booting to Windows. All right. Luckily, I do have Disk Genius already installed on this copy of Windows. What I don't have is a mouse. Give me this mouse. All right. There we go. If you haven't used Disk Genius before, it's relatively rudimentary. It's not the flashiest of disk utilities and whatnot. But I like it. I don't know. It's got a little bit of an old school feel to it. So maybe that's what, I'm an old school guy. I'm not even going to bother trying to get you to see that screen. My camera doesn't do any justice there. But okay. Solid state disk. Cool. All right. There's nothing on this copy of Windows, so we are just going to simply do an OS migration. Target disk, Merc. Yep. That's what I named it. Yep. Source disk is the Western Digital. Blah, 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 blah. All files partitions will be overwritten. Yes. Hot migration. Do it. Now, the problem I have here is I've got my computer laying on its side, but I need access to a SATA power plug. I guess I can just stand it up. Just annoying. There we go. I'll switch to you there. Hi there. How you doing? I'll get you back up this camera. All right. If I stand you up, are there going to be any problems? Good news is, when you're cloning a disk with a fresh install of Windows, there's not a lot of data to clone. So it'll move pretty quick. One of the other issues I was having is some of the blue screen of death codes that were coming through. My buddy looked up the code and he said it is something that's sometimes related to issues from cloning. And I've been doing a lot of cloning. I did a whole video about cloning your drives. Oh, I could just plug it in where the other hard drive was. Oh God, I need that GPU back for the. Oh. I've got a perfectly good ARC B580. That could suffice. It's lightweight, very thin profile. In comparison to the 3080, like, it doesn't look like it's any thinner, but I mean, you look at that. It's a much smaller GPU. Just kind of profile-wise. Yeah, that's pretty obvious there. System migration complete. To boot from target system, please reboot to BIOS and set target disk as blah, blah, blah. No, I do not want to reset my computer now. I am all done. We can shut down. Bye-bye. Or better yet, use one of these GPUs. Those are both DisplayPort. I need HDMI. How did I not notice that before? This stupid thing is this little Radeon. I think it's a. Which one is this? Is there a name on this one? The V337 version 7? That can't be right. MicroStar model. I don't know. Be fun to play around with. There we go. The AMD R5. Fanless GPU. I mean, just for fun, we should go ahead and use this. Why the heck not? What could go wrong? There we go. That's right, it goes this way. There you go. Look at that. I will have to put a screw in there to hold that in place. But instead of a 3080, we'll use that. Nothing can go wrong. Again, $70 screwdriver. Freaking worth it. The magnets on these things are insane. I'm not worried about the GPU sag with that little thing. I'm worried about the sag from plugging in an HDMI into it. So, where's the other end of it? Let's trace it back. Oh, there we go. All right, so we've removed both M.2s. There's no drive in there. Removing the boot media. Plugging in the SATA in the rear side. Oh. Over here I've got SATA power. Is that right? Yeah, there we go. SATA data. Boom. Okay. I can't even see that. There it is. Honestly, if this little XFX thing works. Oh, that's not. Oh, no keyboard detected. Let me fix that. I'm working on it. Freaking out. Getting devices ready. Look at that. It boots to SATA. My pin is no longer available. Yeah, of course it's not. It's not the point. The point is, are we consistently booting to Windows from SATA? Look at that. All right. So we have answers. Let's try some other stuff. Ha! What do we have here? So as we can see, our Windows Media Boot Manager doohickey is detected. Right there. Let's go to check the voltages. 11.9, 4.9, which is within the 10% range. And that's what I read somewhere, is that your voltages need to be within 10 before it turns red like that. And now we're back up to 2.9. Without an M.2 slot, it goes from 2.8 to 2.9, indicating that even just putting something in the M.2 slots affects the voltage on a 3.3 rail. Man. This is crazy. So what do we do next? What are things I can test on a motherboard to drill down where this voltage issue is localized or living right now? I mean, I could physically inspect it for damage, things like that. I'd need some kind of diagram of where to look on a motherboard for the 3.3 volt rails. There is a guy that I saw who was actually diagnosing one of these motherboards recently, and I'd love to send it to him. Oh, I think he might live in Germany. I have no idea. So, all right, let's shut this down. There we go. This is tough. It's a tough call, tough decision to make. I could just continue using it and use a SATA boot drive. And then, but it probably doesn't even see this. Like even if I got on, like it wouldn't see any of the M.2 drives. Be good for a retro build. You could do it. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 SATA storage ports. You could run a bunch of different, like this could be like a server computer. You could make a server out of it. Just like a NAS. Like I'm trying to think of uses for this motherboard now that, you know, if you can't repair whatever the issue here is with the M.2, you know, what do you do? Let's kill the power to it. I don't want to cause any problems. Honestly, one of my biggest takeaways. Come here. Don't sleep on the SATA SSD. No, one of my biggest takeaways is how freaking useful keeping a tiny Okay, that can't be good. Boop. A tiny little GPU lying around that doesn't need external power. You know? One of these. Be super handy for diagnosing. Now this one's DisplayPort only, but there are other options like this one. Come here. Screwdriver that holds more than one screw at a time. Come here. Keeps multiple screws handy. This is the XFX R5. Where are you? Got it off Facebook Marketplace, I think, for $40 maybe. Probably less, 25. The R5 230. It claims stereoscopic 3D gaming, 2K, ultra resolution, 4K HD ready, 4K HD ready. There's got to be a way to test that, though. Can I try and test this and see if I can get 4K off this little thing? Well, that's crazy. You could try that. All right, so the next step will be the next motherboard, which is the X570 Pro. The only main difference of the Pro is that it has the USB-C header on the motherboard. So if you have a USB-C port on the front of your case, and it has that USB Type-E plug that is looking for the header on your motherboard, it actually has that. I think it's Wi-Fi 6, which I don't care about because I hardline everything. But yeah, that's going to be putting that in. And honestly, if I have these issues and it turns out it's like a RAM stick, because I haven't like swapped RAM to test that, which honestly would be the only other component. Right? There's no other components that would be involved in this mess of crap. So, oh, Bryce left. Okay, well, I appreciate you hanging out there, Bryce. What is going on? This feed is like an hour old. What is going on? Okay. That was weird. Sorry, it looked like what was on screen was hours old. Yeah, so you can see that there. That is the X570 Plus Wi-Fi. I've got the Pro coming on Monday. I'll swap that out. And hopefully everything's fine, because the power supply right here, that tested fine. I did the overnight MEM test 86 test a while ago during the original blue screen Armageddon back in June. I think what just happened is something I did. Something down here. Come on. Something in here got messed with. I've got a macro lens for this Sony camera. Maybe I could try and utilize that. But I just don't know enough about all the bits and bobs inside there to know what any of these tiny little things. It's covered in. It's amazing more things don't go wrong with people's motherboards, honestly. Like how does your motherboard not have problems when there's just so many tiny little components? I mean, you know, these are the big ones that you can see. Hi there. Focus. Just not willing to focus. It's like focusing here, but not over here. Like all this right in front of the M.2 slot. There's just lots of tiny little things. Which is exactly where if I was pushing down on this with something to try and open this up and it slipped off, this is where it would hit, right down in there. That whole area should be protected. Like what if I jammed a screwdriver in one of these little rails right here? Got hit. I feel like it would be a larger issue than just slightly undervolting on one section. But who knows? These damn things are finicky, I'm sure. So that's my troubleshooting adventure for this evening. Thank you for hanging out with me. I just wanted to verify that it does boot just fine from SATA. The problem is isolated to M.2 slots. That doesn't mean the motherboard's useless. Thank you, and I'll keep